Did I miss something? I must have missed something. I know we've been locked in here for a long time with this whole thing going on. I know I probably haven't left the house as much as I would have normally, but I don't remember seeing a headline from Bleacher Report. I don't remember a Woj bomb that said Stephen Curry has been traded to the Hornets. I don't remember a Woj bomb saying Klay Thompson's retired, Draymond Green's retired, Steve Kerr's been fired. I don't remember any of these headlines. I could be wrong. I don't think I recall seeing any of them, but the Lakers have just won the championship. Congrats to them. But already looking to the season ahead, all the headlines I've seen, all the potential teams I've seen that supposedly can challenge the Lakers next season are in the Eastern Conference. Now, the Warriors have lost Kevin Durant, so they're no longer going to be the unbeatable force they were. Shout out KD. I recall them making the finals 2 years in a row without KD, being the best regular season team ever without KD. He comes, they win 2 championships. But wait. 2019, that was last year. I know it seems like 3 years ago, but that was last year. Against the Toronto Raptors with Kawhi Leonard, the champions, the Warriors took that team to 6 games. They were up by 3 points in the last couple of minutes of the third quarter, game 6, before Klay Thompson got injured. Now, KD was fantastic in the first 12 games he played, or 11 games he played, but the Warriors win against Houston in Houston, game 6 of the semifinals with no KD. They then sweep the Blazers in the conference finals with no KD, and then against the Raptors, they look like they're on the verge of going to 7 games without KD before Klay Thompson suffers an injury. This same team, with more added things, which we'll talk about, can't compete with the Lakers. They can't compete for a championship again. Okay, before I go any further, I'm not a Warriors fan. I'm just saying that because I know some people would assume that just by me being passionate about them being a good team, because they're one of the best teams ever in my opinion. And even without KD, they're still going to be a fantastic team. The best point guard in the league, the best player in the league in my opinion. Klay Thompson, who was averaging 26 points per game on 59% from 3 and 54% from the field in the NBA Finals against the Raptors. Draymond Green was apparently washed up. He then averaged a triple-double against the Blazers and was averaging close to a triple-double against the Raptors. But I'm just wondering how this team isn't supposed to be able to compete. Also, quickly before I go any further, like I've said, if you could drop a like right now, that would be much appreciated. It really helps out the video, and it takes quite a while to make these kind of videos. And I'm making these videos pretty much daily now, so you may as well subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's pretty easy to do, and it really helps out a lot. So like I said, this Warriors team was on the verge of going to 7 games against the Raptors without Kevin Durant. And now going into this year, whatever you want to say, I expect them to be an even better team than they were against the Raptors in that series. And why are they going to be a better team than they were? I'm glad you asked. Now, there's a number of reasons why I think this team's going to be even better than before. Let's start with the big 3 of Klay, Steph, and Draymond. Most people think it's a hindrance that it's now been a few years since they played, they're now older, but in my opinion, they're still not too old. Basically what I'm saying is they're not past their prime. We saw that in 2019. They played in 5 consecutive finals, 7 consecutive playoff series. That means they had very limited rest for more than half a decade. And when you get over 30 years old, that takes a toll on your body, particularly when you lose a crucial player like KD. Obviously, they were going to be quite fatigued heading into that final series, and they've been quite fatigued for quite some time now. They've just been able to get away with it during the regular season, sitting and whatnot. But heading into next year, I know they've had injuries, but they've now had over a year and a half. They will have had over a year and a half to recover from those injuries, get healthy, and I think they'll be healthier than they have been in probably half a decade. They'll feel like they're 28, 26 again, and that's going to be huge for them. And that's going to be huge because that's the main issue people have over this team is health and is age, but I don't think that's going to be an issue because of the extended rest they've had and the chance they've had to get back to full health. Golden State have now also added Wiggins. Now, whatever you think of him, yeah, obviously he didn't live up to the hype, but he's never been a terrible player. He's actually been quite a solid player, just playing for an underwhelming team and being an underwhelming player based off expectations. But all he's going to be asked to do is asked to defend, slash to the rim, and finish strongly at the rim and just spot up and shoot. These are things he's capable of doing, and it's just making sure he remains switched on, which we might finally see playing for a team full of leadership and veterans, which Wiggins has never been on before. Now, don't expect him to turn into the number 1 overall pick that people thought he would be and the next superstar, but he's going to fill a role, and it's going to be a solid role at that. I know Wiggins will be able to spot up and shoot. I know he's going to be active on the defensive end when you have guys like Draymond Green instructing him on that end of the floor, and he knows this is his best chance at winning a championship. He knows this is his chance to restore his career and get back to where he wants to be, so it's up to him, and I think he might take on the challenge and fit the role perfectly. Now, this isn't even to mention the number 2 overall pick that they landed, And before we even get into that, let's remember back to the regular season. I know it feels like 3 years ago, it feels like a decade ago, and particularly the Warriors regular season, because that was a forgettable one. But you had the emergence of Eric Paschall, who, I know he's not a household name, and he's not going to get the same kind of minutes he got this year, but he averaged around 14 points on pretty good efficiency and proved himself as one of the better rookies in the class. And as a mature guy, he's just someone that's going to be able to add to the rotation and to provide an impact off the bench. This is something that they wouldn't have got if they didn't have a year where they had to play these guys such significant minutes. And when it comes down to playoff time, when you have to throw multiple wings, multiple people that can guard different positions, get buckets, and do all of that, he's someone that's going to help the team out. He's not a big name. He's another impactful player that just helps out. And then you have Jordan Poole, who has terrible numbers if you just look at the raw numbers. But when you actually saw him play the last 15 games or so of the season, his numbers increased, his efficiency increased, and he just looked more confident. And he's someone else I could see coming off the bench and providing some kind of impact. Now, there's a lot of unknowns with the Warriors draft pick. Do they trade it for a player they think can help them, like a Miles Turner who can stretch the floor and provide rim protection? A very good fit. I don't think this would be a straight swap, but it's just an example. Or do they trade back to the number 6 spot, the number 8 spot, and pick up a 3-and-D wing like Devin Vassell, who can impact the team immediately, and to then maybe get a solid rotation player in addition to this? I'm pretty sure the Warriors are actively looking to trade the pick. I know you'll probably see Edwards, LaMelo, Wiseman, all these guys linked with the team, but I think that's just a smokescreen. That's just them trying to keep their options available for when they make a trade. Otherwise, it just diminishes the value of the pick if everyone knows they're going to trade, so they have to make it seem like they're interested. But I'm pretty certain they're going to look to trade it. And so whether they trade it for a Vassell who can come in as a 3-and-D guy, provide impact off the bench, he's also got a bit more in his locker than just that, but he's going to be solid from the get-go, or trade it for a Miles Turner and maybe something else who could start from the get-go and to provide that perfect rim protection and three-point shooting that they need. Either way, it's going to be another player or another 2 players that helps them compete and adds to the trio that is the best trio in the NBA still. In terms of what they could do in free agency, I really like the idea of getting a center, particularly if they don't land Miles Turner. Marquise Chris came along and Kevon Looney's quite solid, but an Aaron Baines, someone who can stretch the floor, he even proved he could play at the 4. He can defend. He's played in crucial playoff games before. They've had another Aussie there at center position and he did pretty well for them. And I think Aaron Baines is the perfect pick, or even a Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, someone like this could help. But Aaron Baines would be ideal. And if they could get him somehow, he'd be insanely good. And then you have another 3-and-D kind of guy, like a Jay Crowder would be solid. Anyone that can guard a few positions, get a body in front of the guys like LeBron, Kawhi Leonard. Someone like Jay Crowder would be another good option if they could get him through the doors. A lineup of Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, and maybe a Baines or a Turner. And then you have the potential of guys coming off the bench like Paschall, Poole, Chris, Looney, and Vassell, or whoever else they get through the doors, like a Jay Crowder. All of a sudden, this looks like a pretty solid team. I know there's still a few missing pieces, but the Warriors actually have the luxury, unlike a lot of other teams, to fill these missing pieces pretty seamlessly. What matters is they have the 3-headed monster, and they have a healthy 3-headed monster, and I think Wiggins is going to be great, and I think they're going to be able to turn that number 2 pick into 2 solid players, or a very good one at that. And all of a sudden, this team is, if not the best team in the NBA, one of the best teams in the NBA. So I don't know how people think they're not going to be able to compete with the Lakers. Let's just not forget what they were doing only a year ago and what they've been doing for the better half of a half decade. Yes, I know when you look at the most talented duos, the Lakers have the most talented duo. And people are going to look back on this duo and say that's one of the best duos ever. And their role players did step up, but the rest of their team is going to be nowhere near as good as what the Warriors can get. They have the ability to make a trade with a number 2 overall pick, lure in a free agent like Aaron Baines, see improvement from Wiggins in a more simplified role, and just probably have a healthier starting lineup than they've had in years. It's just crazy to me that people think the Warriors are like the 5th to 8th best team in the league. Yes, I saw someone in a power rankings put them as the 8th best team in the league. I can't have them any lower than top 3. Let's not forget what these 3 guys did for so long. Let's not forget that they have role players to come in. They have a potential top draft pick that they can trade. They've just got the luxury of doing so many things to add around to the best trio in the league, a great head coach, a great GM, and I just have faith the Warriors are going to make the right moves. And when they do make the right moves, don't be surprised when they're up the top of the Western Conference again and people are wondering why they forgot about how good this team is when they have the best shooting backcourt in history and one of the best defenders in NBA history. This team's not going to be a joke. This team's going to be a serious contender going into next year. And I think everyone's forgetting this about the Warriors. Health, flexibility, and superstars. That's what they have. And that's what you need to win a championship, and they've done it before. And they're going to go very close to doing it again, in my opinion. Don't sleep on the Warriors. If you did enjoy the video, a like would be greatly appreciated. It does take quite a while to make these videos, and if you made it to the end of the video, subscribe, because you might have enjoyed it, you might not have. Anyways, let me know what you think about the Warriors. Do you think they're going to make it back to the NBA Finals? I think they're going to do damn well next year. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. And I just want to see Clay, Steph, and Draymond back on the floor. Plus, I'm pretty excited to see Wiggins and what they do with the number 2 overall pick. Things are looking good for the NBA. Things are looking good for the Warriors. Catch you next time.